Had a couple of days of rain. It's probably gonna be too wet to work here in the garden. Oh, got cucumbers coming up. That's a weed there. Got a few along here. Tomatoes made it okay. Peppers. Strawberries. Rhubarb's coming along. Blueberries. But I can't really work in there today, but that's okay. I don't need to, I guess. Too wet to mow. So I've had this project that I've been putting off, and I gotta tell you, it's just not quite 2 years ago. Had a little incident, and has to do with this hole right here in this screen. I think I'm going to replace this screen. I got another one down there that's got a few holes in it. I think this is where the birds have flown into it and made some little holes in it. I don't know if you can see that or not. Got several holes right in here. But at any rate, I'm gonna replace these two screens right here. But this hole right here, well, I'll tell you what. While I'm setting up the tools, I'll just go ahead and run a clip of just exactly what happened here. It has to do, you know, did you have that favorite dog? That one dog you had that just almost everything about him was perfect? I'll tell you what, there's gonna be two clips. The first one I'm gonna show is gonna be Abby. She was just that dog. Best partner I ever had for working around here. Wasn't anything I did that she didn't want to be in the middle of, as long as it didn't make too much noise. And that noise was thunder, anything that went boom. She just didn't like that. So the second pardon me, the second clip I'm going to show is going to be what happened whenever she was here by herself and it started to rain and had a little lightning and thunder, and she wanted in there really bad. So I'll run those two clips. While I'm doing that, while those are running, I'll go ahead and get the tools set up, okay? So what are you thinking, Ab? Huh? Abby, what are you thinking? Time to go? All right. Ready? Abby, ready? Let's do it. Which way, Abby? Left or right? Which way? All right, we'll go right. Abby doesn't like storms, okay? So she decided she would try it there. That didn't work. So she decided she would try it there. That didn't work. Her goal was to get inside. So her next attempt was there. Okay. That didn't work because it's too high for her to get in. So then finally she was successful. Right there. She made it in, but that's as far as she could get because she came up against something tougher than she was. Almost. So there you have it. That's how that screen got tore up, and And now I'll tell you the story that goes with that. Is that happened in the summertime, and I didn't have any screen wire, and didn't have any screen wire to fix it, so I grabbed some duct tape and stuck on it. I always planned on fixing it as soon as I got a chance, but before I could, Abby had a bad habit. That habit was that if we ever got out there in the road or near the road, she had to also. Normally, she didn't cross the road much. She didn't like dogs cross the road too well. But one day I'm sitting out there right by the road, and this truck came by. And I was sitting on my gator right by the mailbox, and this truck came by and made a noise she didn't like. So she turned around and started chasing it. And that truck ran right over Abby, just mashed her flat. Broke my heart. Just broke my heart. So I didn't really feel like fixing that screen over there. I just left that tape on it. And we went ahead and fixed the rest of the damage. I'll show you the screen door later on, and the French doors, what we did on them to fix them up. And just left that screen like it was. And never did get around to fixing this screen. Because I didn't have a screen wire, first of all. Then on top of that, I just really didn't want to deal with getting rid of all the memories. So I left it. And it's time. Time to fix them. Time to replace it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to replace that screen and the one right next to it. I don't think that was the smartest thing I ever did. I used these deck screws, and the way they're made is that they've got threads on the bottom that turn them in, and on the top the threads run the reverse direction. So when you try to unscrew them, this part here is thinner than a deck board. This is 3/4 inch polyvinyl PVC, and so it's going to try to just tear that out as I get the screws out. But anyway, I'm going to get this off of here and strip this down. Get it ready. Sorry about that. Had a rain delay, but I had notification that we got just a few minutes here before the next one comes through. Maybe we can get some of this taken apart. But at any rate, so I didn't fix that screen Instead, we went ahead last summer and picked up another little doggy from the dog pound. She'd been picked up in town. Somebody had left her, lost her, or something. No chip, no dog tags, no way to identify her. And brought her home. She didn't have a name, so I named her Shasta. And she was a beagle. Appeared to be pretty much full-blood beagle. And nice little doggy. Nice. I think she was. She'd had pups, so they estimated her at 3 years old. So I took that to be how old she was. She had her probably 3 months. She was turning into a great little doggy. I mean, she also liked to ride on the gator. Like Abby, she was always by my side, no matter where I went. If I was out working in the shop even, she'd come out there, walk up to me so I could acknowledge her, pet her, give her a little bit of attention. And then she'd just go on over there and lay down on her rug and wait until something exciting to do. Good dog, but she got out of the garage one night and got chasing after a coon or possum or we don't know what, but she had never crossed the road that we knew. She did that night. So about 5 feet from where Abby got mashed, she got mashed too. So we lost her. We haven't decided whether or not we're going to get another dog. I like them, and I sure would like to have one, but just not ready. Well, I got another dog story I want to tell you. This one here's has a little happier tone to it. I think I know I've told a few stories about Neighbor Donnie. Neighbor Donnie, he's what I referred to as the best housewife on the block. He was probably more comfortable holding a spatula than he would a garden trowel. Took really good care of his kids. Him and his wife and 2 kids, they lived across the alley from us. I had a fence around my yard. He had a fence around his yard. And they had a dog named Tippy. And Tippy was an older dog. He was all black, probably 15-pound dog, slick-haired. Don't know what breed he was. In fact, he had a white tip on the tip of his tail. And Donnie was rather proud of the fact that his kids wanted to name that dog Tippy because he had that white tip on his tail. And he was a rescue from the pound also, yeah. But like I said, he was an older dog, and Tippy was what I referred to as a one-trick puppy. You see, Tippy had been trained that whenever he came up to greet someone, he was supposed to stand on his hind feet and put his paws right on their belt. Just if you were taller, he'd hit you in the shoulders. If you were taller, he'd hit you in the shoulders. But he always had his paws up on you. And Donnie seemed to think that was the thing to do, and kind of encouraged it, you know. Donnie had a bad back and didn't want to have to bend over and pet him. I didn't appreciate it as much as Donnie did, because you see, I wore slacks to work. And if he happened to be out, or I happened to be in his yard, Tippy would invariably get them claws up there on them slacks of mine, and either his paws or his claws would leave a calling card on me. But I got along okay with Tippy. As far as I know, that's the only trick he knew. But he's really good at it. Tippy was a good companion dog for Donnie's kids. They played with him a lot. And he wasn't bad about getting out. If you left the gate open, he might wander out, but he wouldn't go anywhere. As far as I know, he'd come over to our yard, because my kids played with his kids. They were about the same age. And they'd bring Tippy over and he'd play in our yard or their yard. Other than that, I don't know that he ever went anywhere else. So he was a good dog to have in the neighborhood, you know. Don't know that I ever heard him bark, except maybe a couple times when the kids were playing with him and he got a little excited and had enough energy left in him that he could still get up and move around. He might have barked in, but other than that, I don't know that Tippy ever made a sound. Probably 3 years or so that they lived there behind us. And my daughters took shine to him, and I got to work with him. Kind of like Tippy too. One day, like I said, about maybe 3 years or so after they'd moved in across over there, Tippy passed away in his sleep. They didn't do an autopsy or anything like that. And the vet said that he thought he just died of old age. Nobody knew how old Tippy was, because he was, you know, he was a rescue dog, and he was an old dog when they got him. So, kind of just tore up Donnie's kids. His whole family's tore it up. My daughters were upset too, and I got to admit I shed a tear. But at any rate, Tippy passed away. Well, I told you this duct tape been up here about 2 years. He got in pretty bad shape right here. Separated out, and there was a family of squirrels that decided that it would really rather live inside than outside. So it came up here and it opened this all up and started going inside, making a heck of a mess. It got there's a opening up here inside of the porch where they got up into the attic, and we could hear them up there playing their little squirrel games. So I put this piece of plywood in here and stapled to it to hold it out. That happened real late last winter that I noticed that was going on. So I need to take that out first before I strip them screens off. So that was the end of Tippy, the one-trick puppy. In those days, I traveled quite a bit, and the company I worked for, they insisted that I go out Sunday night and travel around to several different plants and don't come home till Friday afternoon. So I'd gone all week. Don't remember where I traveled to, just remember one of them typical trips where you're either sitting in meetings or you're chasing down problems, doing training sessions or something all week long. Maybe as many as 3 different plants. So there's a lot of car driving and airplane flying and all that sort of stuff. But I do remember that about 3 weeks or so after Tippy's demise, pardon me, I shouldn't laugh, but after Tippy's demise, I got home just a little bit before my wife got off work. And she always went over and got the girls. That's what she did. She'd go to the babysitters and get them. And so I beat her home. Well, this ain't gonna work quite that way. Gonna make it crooked if I don't watch out. Can't really see them black lines in here without any sunshine. You might have to come up with plan B on that. But anyway, I got home, let's call it 4 o'clock. She got off at 5 and pulled into the backyard, opened the gate there in the chain link fence, pulled right into the backyard, parked my truck, hauled my suitcases and such inside, and grabbed me a cold drink. It was in summertime, it's pretty warm, but our house wasn't air conditioned. So about the coolest place around was to go out there and sit under that shade tree on that patio. So I did. I was out there trying to get some refreshment in me, and next thing I know, I'd left that gate open. And this dog, about that tall, came through that gate just barking up a storm. Yep, 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 yep. Barking up a storm. Came up there, got right there in front of me, and just kept barking. I didn't know where it came from. Didn't seem like it's gonna bite, but it just liked to bark. So I tried to pet it. It wasn't having none of that. And then I tried to calm it down. Wasn't having none of that. And then pretty soon I heard a holler out there in the alley, and it was Neighbor Donnie. And Neighbor Donnie comes running over there, and he said, I didn't know you was home. And I said, well, Donnie, I just got home. I've been traveling all week. And I said, who's this? He said, well, that's our new dog. And I said, oh, you got your new dog already? He said, yeah. And I said, what'd you name him? He said, well, we named him Tippy too. And I said, Tippy too? I looked down there, and this dog is all black, okay? Might have had a little brown spot underneath his chest up here. I don't know, I can't remember for sure. But anyway, I looked down, I looked up at Donnie, and I said, Tippy too? And he said, yeah, we named him Tippy too. And I said, well, hello, Tippy too. And he said, no. just Tippy. I meant like Tippy also. Took me a moment to digest that. So from there on out, I called him Tippy also. We better get this cut. So as I'm sitting there, working on trying to finish my cold beverage, dog standing there yapping at me, and Donnie and I got to talking about what all taken place since I left town. He told me the story that the kids got to pining for a dog, and so they went down to the town and found this one. He said that they really liked him and thought he was going to work out pretty good, and he's going to be an outside dog. Because Tippy, Tippy, the one trick puppy, he was pretty much an inside dog. This one's going to be an outside dog. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, he keeps barking like that. You'll know if anybody comes in the yard, he'll make a good dog, watchdog. Donnie said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. So, we continued to talk just a little while, and pretty soon it just got the better of me. And I just had to ask. I said, Donnie, you were so proud that you named Tippy your first dog, that because he had that tip on his tail. I said, how come you to name this one Tippy? He ain't got an area spot on him, except maybe that little bruised looking thing on his chest there. Donnie said, well, kids just really love that name and make it easy for us to remember anyway. And you know, he had an answer right there that I could accept, because I could certainly understand them kids wanting to name a dog after their favorite dog. Well, there's one. It'll work. Yeah, might as well get this out of the way. I'm gonna move it anyway. No Wren seemed to be inclined to use it right there. Okay, so where did I leave off? Oh yeah. Did I mention that we didn't have air conditioning? And that it was summertime? Which is why I was sitting outside having me a cool refreshment when I was introduced to Tippy also. But at any rate, that also meant we didn't have it in the daytime. Well, we sure didn't have it at night. We slept with our windows open, just screens. Back in those days, didn't have quite the pestilence you have to worry about today in town. You could basically just open your windows, have a little fan sitting there, bring in a little of that cool night air, and make it through the night. Well, that's what we did. Of Of course, that was before Tippy also showed up. Did I mention Tippy was a yapper dog? I think I did. He was good at it. Donnie put him out there in that backyard, let him conduct his own neighborhood watch program right there. Pretty relentless all night long. Now, we weren't the only ones in that part of the town that had no air conditioning. Some of the other houses around us did too. And it wasn't long till everyone was sad that Tippy, the one-trick pony, wasn't there anymore. You see, our house was located about a block from the Dairy Queen, and there were a lot of people that would take walks down that nice shady street, cut across through that alley to get to that Dairy Queen. And every one of them was greeted by Tippy also. So until that Dairy Queen shut down, about 9 o'clock, there's no telling how many folks would come through that alley. Of course, it got less and less the more people there was that got to be introduced to Tippy also, but nonetheless, he put up noise fierce till well after dark. And then we put the girls to bed. They were in elementary school at that time, and try our best not to do anything to disturb Tippy. But it didn't matter. There was always going to be a cat, a noise, or some other fierce battle he needed to wage. So we didn't get a lot of sleep some nights. After a few months, it started cooling off enough we could close the windows. So there we've gone from, out of bullets. From Tippy, one trick puppy that never bothered anybody in the neighborhood, to Tippy also, who I called Tippy the yapper dog, who bothered everyone in the neighborhood. Tippy came to talk of the area. No matter what the weather was, whether the high school team was doing good or bad, whether the baseball team or whatever, it didn't matter. Talk of the area was always going to be about Tippy also. Once I started calling him Tippy the yapper dog, several of the neighbors decided they liked that name too. So they decided they'd have a visitation with Don and let him know that something needed to be done about his burglar detection plan. So, Don tried several things. He put him in the garage, but then, even though he had air conditioning, he could hear him. So that didn't work. Tried putting him in the house, but that didn't work either because he just wouldn't shut up. So finally, Tippy also disappeared. And I'm not rightly for sure, or I don't rightly recollect what it was, but it was about probably a year? No, it wasn't, because it wasn't hot again. Let's call it 9 months. And Tippy also wasn't around there anymore. So we ended up living in that neighborhood for about probably about 4 years before we moved to the country. Before we left, the next dog that they got was brown and black. Looked like it might have had some beagle in it, but not a lot. But it was another mutt, about the same size. It was a whole different dog than the others, though. Acted totally different. In fact, it had a trick too. And that trick was, it had learned how to shake hands with you. So you'd walk up there, and you say shake, and it'd stick its paw up there and shake with you. And you'll never guess what Donnie named that dog. That was Tippy the Shaker. Pleasant little dog, but as all dogs do, it had a flaw. It's kind of like Abby. Every time there was a firework, car backfiring, clap of thunder, shoot. A squirrel on the next block farted. That dog would start shaking. So, I nicknamed that one Tippy the Shaker. Now, a lot of people thought it was because it'd shake hands with you. But I called it that because every little noise, it'd start shaking. In fact, they made a mistake leaving that dog out in the yard one time when they went out to the ballpark. When they came home, wasn't anywhere around. Nice clear summer day. They think somebody might have stole that dog because it's so friendly and would shake hands and all. My theory was that there was a squirrel that farted too loud, or neighborhood boys shot off their pop cap guns, or who knows what, made noise just a little bit too loud for Tippy the Shaker's sensibilities. He cut out. That's my theory. But at any rate, they were down another dog. So the boss came out and inspected the job. Said that while I had all the battens off, I might as well replace this other screen here. So I'm gonna finish it up first. But let's see, where did I leave off? Let's see, Neighbor Donnie. So far, had 3 dogs named Tippy. Tippy, the first, had a white tip on his tail. Tippy also, which I called Tippy the Yappy Dog, he didn't have anything on him, but he was all black with maybe a little bit of brown on him. And then there was, hold on just a second. Then there was Tippy the Shaker, who liked to shake hands and his whole body whenever there was any kind of noise. They all ended up disappearing for one reason or another. And Donnie, he was coaching our daughters. He had a daughter just a little older than my oldest, and they was on a softball team, and he was coaching it that summer after Tippy the Shaker disappeared. So they never did get around to replacing him that summer. But long about start of school at the end of the summer, they brought home another one, another doggy. And you never guess what they named it. Tippy. This one here was really a friendly little dog. Always wanted to come up and greet you. And had this habit of, whenever he got to you, he'd just lay down, put his leg up there in the air so you could rub his belly. And just as soon as you started approaching him, why, he came with his own fire hose. He just started squirting. I mean, I think that if you had a wildfire going next to him, Tippy could have been a good help. I don't know where he stored that volume, but he could go forever. Tippy was a good dog. Always got along well with Tippy, but I wasn't really one who wanted to see him perform his trick every time, so I kind of refrained from approaching him whenever he was in firefighter mode. But I liked him. Let's see, I gotta put a few more of these in. Well, after that, Tippy the firefighter turned out to be a pretty good dog, as far as I know. We lived there about 4 more years before we decided to move to the country. And after that, kind of lost track of Donnie and his dogs anyway. We'd see him from time to time, but didn't really see his dogs very much. In fact, never did see any of his dogs, I thought. Then it come to pass about 20 years later, a friend of mine who lived in town told me that Donnie had moved in across the street from him there. I didn't know that. Never did think to ask him where he was living, I kind of assumed they were still in the same house when we would see him from time to time. So I decided to walk over there and say, "Hey, Donnie." It was kind of late spring, a lot of pretty flowers out in his front yard. Walked up there and rang a doorbell, nothing happened. Screen door was open, or the door was open, and all he had was a screen door on the front there. And I reached up there, and just as soon as I knocked on that door, this Frenchy poodle looking dog came up there and just started giving me the business. Did not want me around. So I kind of backed off. I began to wonder if Donnie lived there. Never did know him to have any kind of a wiry-haired French poodle-looking dog. But wasn't long. Donnie came walking up there. As soon as he saw who it was, he said, "Donnie." So I did. Walked in there, and as I walked through the door, he said, "Hey, settle down." Reached my hand down there, trying to pet that dog on the head. And I said, "Why, hello, Tippy." Donnie gave me a look out of wonderment, and he said, "How did you know her name?" And I said, "Her?" He said, "Yeah. How'd you know we named her Tippy?" And I said, "Donnie, I just got to tell you, I just took a wild guess." And he said, "Well, you sure guessed right." And just like that, I'd met Tippy 5. Tippy, the Frenchy dog. A lot of times when I think about Neighbor Donnie, I see visions of a dog with a tip on his tail, and a hat, and a quarter dozen of others that don't have no tip on their tail, all of which qualify as Tippy. Well, that about does it for this. I got those 3 screens replaced. Got the battens back on. Now, those holes where the other screws came out are pretty much ruined. So I didn't use them. I put in new screws and new holes. I've got, this is a factory paint on this hardy siding here. That's cement siding. Got place right there where I need to work on it. But anyway, so that means that I can buy caulk that matches this paint exactly. So I've got a couple tubes of caulk, and I've got a few other places around here that I'm going to touch up while I'm at it. Well, once things dry out a little bit, I'll go ahead and open up a tube of that caulk and caulk those holes, and then I'll be able to call that job finished. But like so many others, I tend to get a lot of jobs that need just that little extra push to get them done, but it won't be today. But I did have one more thing I promised to do, and that was to move this wren house. If you'll remember, I took it down when we were getting started. Move it over here in front of this window. Right here. My boss tells me that she's pretty sure that if I move it over here, the wrens will come back to it. because that's where it used to be. So I'm gonna hang this up here. But as to the dog situation and us, well, we're probably not gonna get a dog right now. We'd like to have one. Our cat really loved Abby. They were best buddies. And then the relationship with Shasta after that, the cat he got along pretty good for no longer than Shasta was here. They made up. They slept together a little bit when it was cold there. But anyway, we're probably going to go ahead and get a dog. But we're not going to do it right now. We got to go, you know, it's graduation season right now. We got to take care of that. And then in a little while, we're going to be heading down to Florida. Spend some time down there with my daughter and son-in-law and their daughters, our granddaughters. And I'm thinking that'll be a perfect time for us to go get a new dog. Don't want a puppy, I don't think, but I don't know. I'm going to try to be open-minded about this. Let some other folks have a choice too. So I think that's where we're at with dogs. Probably going to come up with a new name for it. I'm not going to name it Abby also, or Shasta also, or Shasta 2, or anything like that. I'll come up with a new name for it. But you can't fault Neighbor Donnie. Think how easy it was for him to remember his dog's name. Just a real piece of cake for him. He never forgot it. Those of you who hung with me this far, I really do appreciate it. And I hope you have nothing less than a wonderful day.